As someone who specializes in real estate marketing, I see a lot of people out there just trying to get the initial sale. They're trying to sell like a product, a course, get you to use an affiliate link, but I don't believe that they're setting you up for success. My goal is to get you results. So in today's video, I want to go over the skill sets that you need to master before you buy somebody's course, join a mastermind, or purchase marketing that includes my own. Let's dive right in. There are 7 skill sets that you need to master if you want to succeed in direct to seller real estate investing. These particularly apply to like the finding off market deal side. So we're not going to talk about like construction management or leadership. We're strictly talking in the weeds of how you spend money in order to find off market opportunities in order to make more money. I fully believe that if you're in real estate investing, this is one of the most valuable skill sets you can have. What other skill set or industry can you purchase something for less than it's worth right now and turn around and sell it for substantially more other than real estate? The number one skill set that you have to master as a real estate investor is your ability to run comps or decide what a property is worth. I see new investors struggle with this pretty often, where they're assuming that the property is going to be worth more than it really is, or they're just like looking at Zestimate. Realistically, when I'm running comps, I'm looking for what the average is, and I'm assuming I'm going to get about the average value. Now, if I end up selling it for higher or like setting a new record for the neighborhood, awesome, but I'm not counting on that. If you're struggling to run comps, you're going to really struggle to get deals under contract. Just for the sheer fact of like, if you're assuming properties are worth less than they are, well, your offer is going to be way low. Nobody's going to sell to you. If you assume that they're worth way more than they are, people are going to go under contract, and either you're not going to be able to wholesale the property, or you're going to buy it yourself and you're going to end up losing money and being shocked when you can't sell it for this crazy number that you came up with. So the first skill you've got to get down is running comps. The second skill that you've got to master kind of ties into the first one, and that is your ability to accurately estimate what repairs are going to cost. Now, I'll be blunt with you guys. This one's a little bit tricky, and you're likely going to get it just from experience. I've heard good things about tools like Rehab Estimator Pro and things of that nature. I've never really used them. I've just walked enough properties with enough contractors to figure out like roughly how much something's going to cost. When I'm walking through a property or looking at pictures of a deal, I'm not necessarily going like line by line and like, okay, I've got $20 for, caulk budgeted out here. But I know roughly what a kitchen costs, roughly what a bathroom costs, and you've got to get kind of those things down in your market. Repair costs are crazy. You ask 10 different people what a kitchen's going to cost, and you're going to get answers from like $4,000 to like $100K. A lot of it comes down to what you ultimately want, but for your typical like flip or rental grade property, you need to understand what those repair costs are going to be. It's likely going to be a little bit of trial and error to get this dialed in, but if you're using the 75% rule, property is worth 100K, 75% has us at 75 grand, and you're assuming something's going to cost way more than it is, your offer is going to be so low, nobody's going to accept it. On the flip side, if you're assuming you can do a total gut renovation for $10,000, you're going to buy that property, try to flip it or keep it as a rental, and you're going to end up losing a lot of money. So you want to make sure that you kind of start to get that dialed in. The third skill set you've got to kind of just like mentally agree to is the fact that you're going to make offers on everything, and you're not going to do any like the weak BS that I see newbie investors doing. Things like seller calls in, hey, I got a piece of mail, what's your offer? And they give them a ballpark, right? Hey, would you take half of what you think it's worth? My general rule of thumb, if they have equity and they want to sell, which we know they have equity because we checked that filter before we mailed them, and they're calling requesting an offer, work that lead just like it's the best sounding lead you've ever had come in. I've bought more properties than I can count from people that I would call like unmotivated tire kickers that a lot of investors would have just thrown in the trash pile because on that, like, yeah, let me give you a ballpark, they're going to be like, yeah, no, that's too low. Don't waste your time. Thanks. But then I end up getting the deal. So you have to go into this realizing you're going to make offers on a lot of properties. You're going to get told no a lot, but you're going to continue to show up and go through the motions regardless. You start to like try to cut corners, you're going to miss out on deals. The fourth skill set you've got to get down is the ability to really not take no for an answer. The statistics we see amongst all the investors I work with is a 10 to 30% closing ratio on appointments, meaning you're going out, meeting somebody, building rapport, getting to know them, and making them a cash offer on their house. But if we look at the opposite side of that, that's 70 to 90% of people are going to tell you no. Often in my experience, that no isn't like, oh, good sir, I appreciate that offer, but that won't work for me. It's like, you should be ashamed of yourself, or, oh, I would never sell for anything like that. You have to be able to take that no and keep the conversation going. If I make somebody an offer and they say, oh, absolutely not. Great. Did you have a counter in mind? Right? Or, okay, what were you hoping to get out of the property? You have to be willing to keep going, keep pushing. How I explain this to the guys I work with came from a Jen Sincero book of you want to just like see what you can get away with. So if I make somebody an offer and they tell me no, I'm going to like, okay, let me see how far down from their asking price I can get them. Even if we can't come to terms, I've already gone this far, so I might as well see the thing through. The fifth thing we've got is people skills. And I don't think I can understate the importance of this particular skill set. Reading a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great start of like smile, make eye contact, shake their hand, be an active listener, seem like you actually care about them. The amount of investors that I compete with, that their process is they walk in, say, yeah, this place is gross. I'll give you this. Okay, that doesn't work for you. Good luck. And then walk out is insane. The number one rule of sales is people are going to do business with people that they like. So you have to be able to like build rapport, get to know them, and take a genuine interest in their circumstances and realize that sometimes their best option is not going to be you. The amount of times that we've told a property owner like, hey, you should just list this place on the MLS, or if all that matters to you is getting top dollar, why haven't you signed up with a realtor, right? You have to be willing to have those kinds of conversations where, it's not necessarily selling to you isn't going to be their best option. You'd be surprised how many people we meet with on beautiful looking houses that I say, hey, I'm not your guy, go sell it to somebody else. And they come back and say, we just had one recently. Offer pad came in $20,000 higher than us. We told the guy, look, that doesn't make sense to us. We can't compete with it. And the guy was like, all right, I'll sell to you. We're like, what? It's not always about the money. It's about the relationship. And if people feel like you actually care about them, or if you're just trying to get something out of them. The sixth skill set that you've got to have mastered is probably the number one thing that I see the real estate investors I work with struggle with, and that is their follow-up game. We do these things that I lovingly call CRM audits. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link to a video on like a whole bunch of problems that I typically find when I do these, but that is going through their Resimpli accounts and looking at how are they actually working their leads. Normally what I see is like call comes in, they're not able to get on the phone with the person. They maybe try to call it back once and then they just stop. You have to realize like you might call somebody 3 times a week for 3 or 4 weeks before they pick up the phone, before you get out there to see an appointment. You might have situations where somebody books an appointment, you drive an hour there, and then they don't show up. They like ghost you, right? I know a lot of investors are like, you don't respect my time, I don't respect yours. I guess you don't want deals that bad, right? Our approach is like, hey, what happened? When can we reschedule, right? Another thing that I see is in like the making offers. You make somebody an offer. We kind of touched on this in an earlier point. They say no, and you just say, okay. Or maybe you get up to your max offer and they say, no, that's too low for me. I can't do it. You still want to keep following up with that lead. We call sellers back all the time and say, hey, look, I know you were wanting this. I was down here. Have you found anybody to pay this yet? No? Okay. Should we talk more about my number then and how that works, right? So you have to be willing to do that follow-up. And you don't want to be creepy with it, right? I've seen people that on the flip side of this, they're calling somebody like 5 times a day. Good rule of thumb is like a couple times a week. Leave a voicemail, shoot a text, maybe alternate, right? Sometimes don't leave a voicemail, sometimes just shoot a text. You got to keep in mind, people are busy and they're not necessarily going to remember who you are or what you wanted if you're only trying to call them once or twice, especially if it's something like a landline and they're just simply not at home. The seventh, and I think I've already called something the most important, but I would say the most important to long-term success is consistency. What we often see investors do, they'll order a batch of marketing, their phone starts ringing off the hook, they're focused on working these leads, they get their leads over to appointments, they're focused on those appointments, they get an accepted offer, then they're focused on raising private money, hard money, wholesaling it, burning it, whatever it is, right? They get the deal closed, but they've stopped all of this back end work. So they get this deal done, they turn around and they have no prospects, they have no opportunities. So they've got to restart the whole machine again. And it ends up being like they're really marketing consistently, maybe 3 to 4 times a year. And what we see with that, I call it like the 6-figure hamster wheel. If you do that, it's relatively reasonable to get a deal a quarter, make 6 figures a year, but it's really, really hard to do more than that if you're not consistent. So if your backlog is you need more private money, well, take a month, focus on raising private money. That way you can then consistently market. If your problem is you have a day job and you can't meet with that many sellers, you likely need to hire an acquisitions manager, someone to go meet with sellers on your behalf. If you're like me, you like the appointment side, but the working the leads, endlessly smiling and dialing and calling people sounds like hell. Well, that's cool too. You don't have to do that side. You can hire in what we call an ISA, or like an inside sales agent, somebody to just push those leads over to appointments and really tee it up for you. The important thing is that you're consistent. Most investors have these really lofty goals, but they don't realize that in order to hit them, it requires marketing consistently if you want to build up any sort of consistency in your deal flow or lead pipeline. I once had an investor that had worked with me come back and they're like, I did everything you said. I didn't get any deals. It's your fault. And I was like, let's analyze that statement, right? You ran your appointments. You made your offers. You did your follow-ups. You analyzed your deals. You decided where you wanted to market, what lists you wanted to pull. Like, we can lead you to water, but I can't force you to drink. It's probably an 8th skill would be personal responsibility, which also happens to be like a big pet peeve of mine. But this really is one of those things, like, if you show up and you take consistent action, I'm not telling you to like not market or not join a mastermind or like not try. I didn't have these things mapped out when I started, but you've got to realize if you don't know how to run comps, if you don't know what repair costs are, as you're marketing, as you're running appointments, these are things you're going to want to actively getting feedback on from people that are more skilled than you. So if you like attend a local RIA, hey man, can I show you some pictures of a deal I'm looking at? What do you think this is going to cost me repair wise? Okay, how'd you get to that number? It's more just realizing like there's more building blocks to this than just marketing, plus you equals everything you want. There's going to be a little bit more work and you're going to have to be more intentional as you do this than you're probably estimating right now. One of my favorite quotes is, everything you want is likely going to take more time and more effort than you initially estimated before you set out. I found that to be extremely true in my own life. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. My name is Ryan Dossey. I'm a real estate investor that specializes in finding off-market deals. If you enjoy content like this, all I'm going to ask is that you like and subscribe. If you really, really liked it, tell a friend about it. I appreciate you hanging out with us. Talk to you next time.